from what I could find, these could be the lightest Shimano compatible road pedals you can actually buy, and they're from AliExpress. They cost less than 50 quid and weigh just 180 grams. That's 22% lighter than Shimano's flagship Dura-Ace pedals, while costing 70% less. Yeah, on paper, these things are genuinely incredible. But a year or two back, I bought a similar set of carbon composite pedals from AliExpress. They were fantastic for a while, but eventually developed an issue which made them completely unusable. Although much lighter, these pedals use a very similar design. So the question is, have they finally cracked it, or is history about to repeat itself? My name, as always, is Luke, and welcome back to Trace Velo. Also, just FYI, I bought all the pedals in this episode myself. Nothing was sent to me. This isn't sponsored or anything like that. So yeah, I guess let's crack on. Right then, so here they are, the body and the rear retention clip. They're made from a carbon fiber reinforced polymer, while the axles are a titanium alloy. The result, just 180 grams for the pair. To put that into perspective, Shimano's latest 105 pedals weigh 265 grams, Ultegra comes in at 248, and even their flagship Dura-Ace pedals are 228 grams. They're also surprisingly cheap. I paid just over 45 quid with a couple of AliExpress coupons, but even without, right now, they're 48 quid with free delivery. Dura-Ace pedals, with a huge discount, bear in mind, cost 150 quid. So the value is absolutely ridiculous. In the box, you get the pedals, a surprisingly decent set of cleats, which have one slightly unusual feature I'll come back to, the mounting hardware, and even 3 Allen keys for installation, adjustment, and servicing, which is cool. They're from a brand called ROCKBROS, and if you've spent any time on AliExpress, like I have, then you're gonna be familiar with them. I've had good experiences with their stuff in the past, and yeah, these pedals were no exception, at least initially. I've ridden them for about 500 kilometers, and yeah, they've basically been faultless. Great build quality, a nice wide, stable pedal platform, really easy to clip in and out of, and the bearings were silky smooth out of the box. You can adjust the release tension. I like the fact that they easily drop to a vertical position, which makes clipping in from a standing start super straightforward. And I've done some really high effort sprints. No creaks, no groans, basically no issues. But here's the thing, right? I already know how and pretty much when these pedals are basically gonna become paperweights. Back in August of 2024, I bought these things for just over 40 quid from AliExpress, the PD-06 pedals from a brand called Onirii. Just like the ROCKBROS pedals, they have a carbon composite body, titanium axles, and at 203 grams for the pair, they are slightly heavier, but still comfortably lighter than Shimano Dura-Ace. They were genuinely excellent, and in fact, I did a whole video kind of extolling the virtues of them. But in that video, there's one thing that at the time I couldn't really answer, and that was how they were gonna hold up kind of super long term. At the time, I figured they'd fail in one of two ways. Either water was gonna creep in past the seals and the bearings would eventually give out, or the retention clip at the back, which again was made of a carbon composite material. I figured that might wear out and become too loose. Well, here they are. They look absolutely fine. The bearings are still nice and smooth, and that steel kick plate in the middle there still has plenty of life left in it. But yeah, check this out. This is how a brand new pedal should hold onto the cleat, nice and tight, no play. Now this is one of those worn out Onirii pedals on exactly the same cleat. I mean, look at all that movement. It is so loose. At this point, that pedal is completely unusable. Basically, the rear clip did wear, so you can see there's a bit of a gouge out of one of the corners here, but importantly, the front of the pedal, that wore out too. So where the nose of the cleat impacts the pedal when you clip in, over thousands of engagements, it's worn a bit of a semicircle out of the composite in this area. So combine those things, and yeah, the pedal was pretty loose. So how long did this take? Well, honestly, not like super long, about 5,000 or 6,000 kilometers. Now, to be fair, I did ride them through 2 English winter seasons, which definitely would have accelerated the wear, but even so, that's not a huge lifespan, right? It is worth saying though, Shimano pedals, they're not immune from this either. So I read a few forum posts with people describing a similar wear pattern on their Dura-Ace pedals, which are also a carbon composite, but it seemed quite rare and did seem to occur after a much higher level of mileage as well. Now, exactly why, I'm not too sure. Maybe the carbon composite Shimano uses is a bit harder wearing, but even so, where does that leave these ROCKBROS pedals? based on my experience with those Onirii pedals, I reckon these ones are gonna wear out in pretty much exactly the same way. I mean, the fundamental design hasn't really changed, and from what I can see, the carbon composite is basically identical. In fact, I think it might have already started actually, so you can't really see much on the rear clip, but if you look really closely at that frontal engagement area, a semicircle is starting to form in the composite after 500 or 600 kilometers. But here's the thing, they feel really nice to use. They cost less than 50 quid and they're 180 grams. In fact, I think from my research, they might actually be the lightest Shimano standard road pedal that you can buy, full stop. Now, don't get me wrong, I know lighter pedals exist, I've tried a few, but they generally use totally different systems. So look Keo, Time Espresso, or maybe the Wahoo Speedplay Lollipop style pedals. If you want to stick with Shimano SPD-SL, I think these pedals are it. So even if they do only last 6,000 or so kilometers, I still think they're worth considering, because if you want something this light, you know, compromises have to be made somewhere. Plus, I think using genuine Shimano cleats might actually help. Anecdotally, it seems like they might use a slightly softer plastic than those used on cheap third-party cleats, so that might help kind of reduce wear in that area. Plus, as mentioned, the cleats that come with these pedals, they are a little bit odd. They're slightly wider than normal, and they have this extra molded lump on the back of the cleat, which doesn't seem to do anything apart from sometimes catch on the pedal when you're sort of trying to clip in, which is a bit annoying. But anyway, that aside, if you're using the Shimano SPD-SL system and want to drop some weight without spending Dura-Ace money, I reckon these pedals are definitely worth considering. Right, very quickly, the notion that the plastic on Shimano cleats is a little bit softer, I did find something. So these are official Shimano cleats, a little bit worn, but for the pair, 38 grams. These next ones are third-party cleats that actually came with the Onirii pedals. They're 53 grams for the pair. So yeah, the third-party cleats, much heavier, so presumably the plastic is denser and harder wearing, so that could account for the increased wear on the pedals. And in fact, I weighed the third-party cleats that came with the ROCKBROS pedals. Those are kind of similar, a bit heavy, 57 grams for those. So using those could increase the wear on these pedals too. One thing to bear in mind, there's no specified weight limit for these pedals, or at least I couldn't find one. In fact, it seems like a number of other brands produce pretty much the same thing. There's one from Riot and one from a brand called Maroka as well, but yeah, nothing listed there either. So kind of arbitrarily, I suppose, I would say if you're over 100 kilos, just, you know, be careful. They are super lightweight, so there's gonna be less material and they are gonna be less robust. Also, the spindle width is a little bit wider. So the Shimano standard is 52 millimeters. These measure closer to 55. So your stance on the bike will be a little wider as a result. Right, sorry to keep sort of interrupting the video, but on that weight limit, I did find something. So these are the Sonic pedals from this brand I'm quite familiar with actually. Xpedo, yeah, interesting name. But anyway, that aside, Rides of Japan took a look at these, I think, and they're kind of similar in a lot of ways. So they've got a carbon composite body and then a titanium spindle right there. Now they're a little tiny bit heavier, so 188 grams. But importantly here, it's got maximum rider weight limit for titanium spindles, 86 kilograms. And I don't have any on hand, but they do look very similar. So basically, in the absence of any other kind of technical specifications for those ROCKBROS pedals, maybe that's a good baseline. Now, I want to drop this at the end because if you're searching for the lightest pedal on the cheap, I still haven't found anything that beats these. They're knockoffs or dupes of a now discontinued pedal design from Time. Again, I've already done a video on them actually a couple of years ago now, so check that out for the full details, but you can still find a few listings for these things on AliExpress. They'll cost about 60 quid, but weigh just 152 grams for the pair. Yeah, just ridiculous, really. Now, not everyone likes the Time Espresso kind of system. I think it's fine, actually. And you can find replacement cleats very easily as well. I'll be honest, I really love these pedals. I've had 2 pairs by this point. They ride really well and they're surprisingly robust. I've ridden them thousands and thousands of kilometers with no real issues. I've had to replace the bearings in one of them, but that's super straightforward. More than likely, it's the rear clip that's gonna go first. So you can see here, there's a little gouge being worn in one of the corners, which makes the pedal a little bit looser, but it'll take you about 8,000 kilometers, something like that to get there, which for something so cheap, I think is pretty decent. So yeah, if you're wedded to the Shimano system, those ROCKBROS pedals are a fantastic option for dropping some weight, but if not and you're chasing the lightest pedals you can on the cheap, these ones here are almost impossible to beat actually. So yeah, I'll put details for both down below. Thanks for listening, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, see you next time. Ciao.
It's the bonus clip time.
Right, so I mentioned in the last episode that me and my wife are going to have another baby very soon, and it's going to be like the next day or two, which is absolutely nuts. So yeah, that's super exciting. But anyway, that sort of aside, I do have some really cool stuff on the books, and I want to give you a sneak peek. I've been trying out some Chinese road bike tires because I can't really bring myself to pay 60, 90 quid per tire for a pair of GP5000s. These ones have been honestly pretty phenomenal, especially considering the price I paid. I've had them on for near enough a month. Those have been really good. I've got these as well. I was recommended these Arison tires. They are more expensive than those ones, but they're supposed to be absolutely phenomenal. So I'm testing those too. I've got this saddle that I picked up from AliExpress. Yeah, it's a bit bonkers. It's just over 50 grams, which is crazy. I showed it to my friend and he was like, that's the weight of a double espresso. So that should give you some idea of what this thing is like. I've been, again, riding it for just over a month. I kind of expected the carbon to give out somewhere because it's so skeletonized, but it's been pretty robust, honestly. So yeah, I'll show you that soon. I've done a few other weight-saving bits and bobs on this bike. I've put kind of carbon levers on here. I've also got these as well. So these are kind of skeletonized disc brake mounts that just came in the post. So I'll stick those on soon. And I've also got, so this is the L2R9 group set that I've raved about for a long time, actually. I really like this. I've had this on the bike 2 years, I think, at this point, maybe a bit more. I've got the kind of latest, well, the latest iteration of L2's R9 group set in the box there. So that's going on too. So essentially I've got loads on. Now I will have a brand new baby in like 3 days, maybe less. So yeah, wish me luck. Well, wish my wife luck. I'm not really going to be doing much apart from being there to support. But yeah, anyway, the upload schedule is going to be a bit iffy for the next month or two. So do bear in mind. But I do have loads of cool stuff. And I've got some other cool bits on the way as well. So you get subscribed and yeah, see you on the other side. Right, cheers everyone. Ciao, ciao.